From high-tech to old school, corporate to mom and pop, Chelmsford, Mass. Has a thriving business community. And every month, the Chelmsford Business Association visits 2 local businesses. We learn what makes each one successful, what makes it unique, and what makes it an integral part of the town we love. So let's get down to business with the Chelmsford Business Association. Welcome to another edition of the Chelmsford Business Association. I'm your host, Bill Martin, along with Paul Aronian and John Harrington. We have a special edition tonight. We're here with Courtney Thompson. She's going to be addressing the CBA tonight about stormwater concerns. Courtney, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now tell us, stormwater, it's been a big thing the last couple of years. Too much pavement in the world, they're saying. It's sending the water in the wrong directions. Tell me about what we're going to be hearing tonight.
Well, we're going to be going over a few things. We're going to be talking mainly about how stormwater relates to businesses, of course. We're going to be talking about the new stormwater utility, general overview of what is stormwater and how we manage it and why stormwater management is so important. Some of the new regulations that require us to have the stormwater utility fee.
Right.
We're going to quickly go over the stormwater utility fee, and then we're going to talk about some easy everyday things businesses can do to help reduce the amount of stormwater that they're contributing.
Yeah. And it really is a big concern. I'm hearing it all over the place at the water district and the sewer division. We have a new department here in town now. And it's really across the state, across New England, and across the country.
Yeah, it's new federal and state regulations that mandate they have a lot more requirements than what they used to have for stormwater management. So there's a lot more monitoring involved, a lot more sampling we have to do, a lot more upkeep, and a lot more paperwork to show that we're doing that.
Sure. And what is the concern? What's the problem we're solving here?
It's more trying to act proactively and prevent problems than to, whenever there is a problem, react.
Sure.
So it's about planning, prioritizing projects. So projects, culverts, bridges, they get fixed before problems occur, which saves money in the long run.
Yeah.
And reduces localized flooding, erosion, downtime of businesses or road closures.
Yeah.
So it's more about planning and being proactive, and a lot more just reporting, making sure the water that's entering our waterways is as clean as it can be.
Is that what it is? It's about the how the quality of the water or the direction it's going?
Quality. Well, both. So we have to maintain our structures to make sure the water is moving how it's intended to, make sure the structures are working how they're intended to.
Right.
Optimizing some that maybe could be working better, some outdated structures, and also making sure we don't have any discharges that we're not aware of, some small leaks somewhere. So a lot more monitoring of the outfalls where the sewer system discharges to waterways, making sure that there's no signs of problem there. And if there is, react before it becomes a bigger problem.
And you're going to try to get all this into a 1-hour presentation tonight?
We should be able to. So.
Well, Courtney, thanks for joining us. We're going to be watching your presentation. We look forward to it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
John Harrington, we meet again.
Well, again, Bill, we're having an important meeting tonight with the businesses.
Stormwater. Yeah, we're talking to Courtney about that, and that's really getting to be a pretty big thing here, hasn't it?
Yes, it is. It's federal mandated.
Yeah.
It is very, very expensive, and the businesses, not only in Chelmsford but all over, it's a mandate that they have to comply. And Courtney's here tonight, the stormwater manager of this for Chelmsford, and she's going to field questions. She's going to give a little presentation, and we'll have a ton of questions for her, because all we know is the bills that we're getting in the business community, and the residents get a bill as well. However, the commercial and industrial bills are much higher.
It's not cheap at all. And it's based on what, square feet of parking area or something? Is it?
Well, that's supposedly what it is, but that isn't necessarily the case. I've got a piece of property that is much smaller than my driveway, but my stormwater bill is 3 to 4 times higher.
Really? Yeah.
So it doesn't work that way, and that's a question that I'll have tonight.
Right.
What is fair? And what's fair for the residents? What's fair for the business community?
Yeah.
And the business community is being gouged enough with all the fees and with the classification last year of a 27% increase to businesses. Thank you, some selectmen. So the business community is just up against it.
It's feeling a burden.
They're feeling a burden.
Yeah.
And you've got some key players here tonight that are going to be asking some questions, and we're thrilled that you're here to film this because our members that can't make it, they'll be able to see the filming, Bill.
Right.
So we appreciate you always being there for
Paul
us.
and I are glad to do it. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Thanks for saying so, John. And we're going to try to corner a couple of people over here before the show gets started.
All right.
John Harrington, thanks so much. We're here with Christina Papadopoulos, the town engineer. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me here.
Of course. And now Stormwater, we've got some business people that are a little upset with the fees that are going along with it. We have a lot of people concerned about the environment that are really think it's kind of overdue. What's the middle ground on this, Christina?
That's exactly it. Trying to find a middle ground, trying to have the town do everything they possibly can to ensure the health and safety of the general public.
Yeah. Now, this is all state mandated, federal mandated, or both?
It's ultimately both, but it is a federal mandate that the state has also agreed to.
Okay.
So the town must comply with both federal and state regulations for stormwater.
And how much leeway does the town get in terms of how they're going to handle what the goal is? Have they been told how they have to do it, or?
No, we've been told what we need to do, and it's a lot more than what we've normally been doing.
Yeah.
And we know exactly what it is that we need to do and how to do it. Mm-hmm. So it's just a matter of getting out there, getting our boots wet, and getting it done.
Yeah.
And we're happy to do it.
Well, there you go. You know, we talk a lot about outreach when we talk about some of the departments in town, and to let the residents know what's going on in the next 2 to 5 years. In these type of meetings like this is very helpful for that. What are we looking at in terms of modifications to the town? Is there major? Is there going to be like excavation and a lot of?
Well, I think we're going to see a lot more capital improvement projects, such as newer culverts, better, greener spaces, and hopefully, ultimately, cleaner water. That's really what our ultimate goal is, that our water is swimmable, fishable. I really like to enjoy water, and drinkable. We have the water treatment plants, which take care of that.
Indeed, and they do a great job there.
Thankfully, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you, and I think this is the sensitive part for our audience tonight, is who's paying for all this?
Well, it's ultimately everybody's responsibility because we all are using the stormwater in one way or another. We're all impacting it in one way or another. And so it's ultimately everybody's responsibility.
Yeah. Is the state coming to the table with funding and the federal government coming to the table with funding?
We wish. We've been asking for a long time, and they keep saying that it is up to the municipalities to come up with a way to comply with their mandates.
And so really the town, and it falls on the selectmen and Paul Cohen and everybody, that they have to come up with every nickel that has to go to meet the mandate. But it's that term unfunded mandate.
Always the unfunded mandate.
Yeah.
We do our best to use as many grants as possible. Whenever there are grants that we can use that are somewhat related even, we jump right on that, and we're quick to apply for those, and that's how we've gotten this far. Before, that's what we did before we had the utility, and we still continue to do that even with the utility. We still continue to apply for grants.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We don't stop.
Stormwater has its own department now in the town of Chelmsford.
Correct.
Stormwater, are they under the sewer department
No, they're under the DPW.
They are,
They're just a division of the DPW.
So they're their own division. All right.
They're on their division, yes.
Well, they've got a long road ahead of them. That is for sure.
That is very true.
Yeah. Well, Christina, thanks so much for all of your efforts. We're all looking forward to our presentation tonight, and there'll be a few tough questions, but it feels like you can handle it.
Oh, thank you so much for having us.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight. Tonight is a very important meeting for stormwater and later on classification. This time, I want to introduce our president, Kathy Kelly, who will do the intros.
Okay, well, thank you all for coming tonight. It's a little crispy up there. Thank you. We appreciate your coming out tonight, and this topic, stormwater fees, is an important one, and there's been a lot of things that I guess aren't fully understood. So that's why the CBA decided to put this program together, and Courtney Thompson is going to, she's the stormwater engineer, and she's going to be doing the presentation along with Christina Papadopoulos, who's the town engineer. But before we get started, I just wanted to mention some of the other town officials that are with us tonight. Sam Chase, Chairman of the Assessors, Pat Wojcik, one of our select women, Paul Cohen, Town Manager, Donald Van Dyne, Economic Development, and Lisa Maroney, also from Economic Development. So we appreciate...
And Ken LeFay.
I apologize. So sorry, so sorry. Ken LeFay. So again, thank you for coming, and I'd like to turn this over to Courtney and Christina, and I will get out of the way.
Well, thank you so much for having us here tonight. Again, my name is Christina Papadopoulos. I'm the town engineer, and Courtney will be doing most of the presentation, but I'm also here for additional questions and to offer some additional information. So I think, do you want to introduce?
Yeah. I'm Courtney Thompson, the stormwater engineer, and we're just trying to do a general overview to help clarify some of the questions involved in the stormwater department and the utility. We're going to be quickly talking about broadly how stormwater relates to businesses, and then we'll go through a general overview of what exactly stormwater is. We'll talk about the utility fee, some examples of recent work that the DPW's done, and how businesses can help with stormwater management. So, what is stormwater? So whenever it rains or snow melt, water flows from rooftops, driveways, lawns, sidewalks, and it all ends up, or it mostly ends up in the storm drain system. So as you can see in the figure here, the more impervious area, the more water ends up in the system and the less water is infiltrated into the soil. So as towns urbanize, it's really important to manage that stormwater that doesn't just naturally infiltrate back into the soil. And as stormwater flows across surfaces, it becomes polluted with litter, sand, bacteria, and chemicals. And that obviously ends up in the storm drains. And many people are surprised to learn that the storm drains are not connected to the sewer system. So any water that ends up in the storm drain system gets discharged directly to our waterways without any sort of filtering or any sort of treatment. Stormwater pollution is an important quality of life issue. It not only impacts our waterways, but all of our water resources, our drinking water supply. So it's really important to try and prevent any sort of pollution from entering here. And we've always obviously had stormwater infrastructure in place, but there are new federal and state MS4 permit requirements that require a lot more administrative work as well as documenting and inspections and sampling to maintain the stormwater drain system and show compliance, to report compliance to the state and the EPA. So the new requirements have a rolling, the new permit requirements have rolling deadlines. So we just finished year one of the permit. Next year there'll be even additional work that needs to be met to be in compliance, and it will just keep accumulating. So this is some of the administrative work that we didn't really have to previously do, and we now have to do every year. There's the annual report, which we submit to the town and to the state and the EPA, and that's basically what it is, what it sounds like. It's an annual report that documents that we're in compliance with all the requirements and shows all the documentation, so inspection reports for catch basin cleanings, different documentation for outfall inspections and sampling. And then we also have in place a written illicit discharge detection and elimination plan. And the goal of this plan pretty much is to find and eliminate any potential illicit discharges and to prevent future discharges. A lot of the new requirements really focus around being proactive to prevent issues instead of reacting when issues occur. So the IBDE plan involves inspecting and sampling all of our outfalls, which we have about 650. We have to inspect and sample them twice, once during dry weather and once during wet weather, every 3 years. So basically when you're finished, you start again. And we have to annually clean and inspect all 4,500 catch basins. And it also requires in-depth system mapping. We have our drainage system mapped out, but the new requirements really require it to be just much more in-depth than we previously had. And it's beneficial to have this because it will limit damage from any future spills or any problems that we do have. We'll be able to go to our system mapping and really prevent or minimize any sort of damage or any sort of spillage. Another administrative requirement is the Stormwater Management Plan. This is an active document that describes and details all the activities and measures that the town has implemented and that the town plans to implement with a timeline on that to meet the terms and conditions of the MS4 permit. Then we're also currently working on developing a Stormwater Master Plan, and that's really for long-range planning. Again, really emphasizing proactive planning instead of reactive response, and it's just for the foreseeable future. We're also by the end of next year we have to have stormwater pollution prevention plans in place for municipally owned properties. So there's just a lot more in addition to the inspecting and cleaning and sampling. There's a lot more administrative work and reporting that we previously wasn't required. Other than it being required, there are a lot of benefits to stormwater management. Obviously, it maintains water quality by minimizing the amount of pollutants that enter our waterways. And this protects our water resources, improves the aesthetic value, and improves profitability values. It also, in some of the plans, specifically the Stormwater Master Plan, we're prioritizing projects. So instead of just when something fails or when something's about to fail, scrambling and trying to fix it, we know which projects are the most important, which projects need to be dealt with immediately, and we have a long-term plan. And prioritizing projects and fixing them before anything happens will help to reduce localized flooding and erosion, prevent road closures, limit any sort of storm damage, and minimize downtime of businesses. And we are currently applying for grants to supplement funds associated with replacing and updating outdated structures. As I said earlier, we also need to inspect and maintain all 225 culverts, 650 outfalls, and 4,500 catch basins. And generally, stormwater structures in industrial and commercial areas, they tend to require more maintenance compared to residential areas because there's a lot more traffic and more use and other things getting into the stormwater in those areas rather compared to residential uses.
So after you heard about all the requirements that the town now has to comply with those federal mandates, that is a significant amount more than we ever had to do before. So the town had to look at how we're possibly going to accomplish this and meet all these requirements. So we look back at the timetable here. So we realized that back in 2003 was the initial MS4 permit. So we'd already been doing that without any additional utility funds or anything like that. But in 2010, EPA issued the first draft of the new permit. And that's when we got our first taste of what exactly EPA had in mind for us. What exactly that they thought the municipalities were going to need to do to comply with their new permit. Well, the municipalities came out in full force and we spoke to the EPA and we said, whoa, 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 that sounds way too much. We can't possibly do this. How do you expect us to pay for it? And we went back and forth. So they issued a new permit, they revised it. We went back and forth a few times. We saw a couple different renditions of the permit. Finally, in 2016, EPA issued the final permit, which they said was going to start July 1st, 2017. Okay, so during this time, we heard many other municipalities come together and talk about forming utilities and successes in other municipalities in other parts of the country that have had great success with utilities. We've heard about how they form their utilities, what are the benefits of a utility versus a tax, or what are the benefits of a utility or another form of fee. So we sort of determined that a utility fee would be the best way to accomplish our task of raising the money to meet the needs and requirements from the federal government. So in May of 2017, Chelmsford voted to form the stormwater utility at the town meeting. Many discussions happened before that. It didn't just happen like that. We had met with the select board at the time, made presentations and discussed how the utility fee would be set up and et cetera. We showed them the rate table that's shown here, so that we discussed it. They voted, they approved it. So in June of 2017, at the very last minute, EPA put a stay on the permit. So the town decided not to start sending up the utility bills and to hold off until EPA decided they were really ready to go with this thing. So in July of 2018, the revised MS4 permit became effective. They told us it is official now, you must start complying. Okay, so we had to backtrack. So to October of 2018, we put together the stormwater utility budget, and that was approved at town meeting. So the earliest we could start issuing the utility bills for that would be January of 2019. So that's when the first utility bills went out, and they went out in the sewer bill, which comes out twice a year. So basically we worked backwards, so we knew what we would need in order to comply with the permit. So we had a figure in mind that we knew we would need to raise in order to meet the needs. So that's where this rate table came in. We hired Weston and Sampson to do the utility study to help us determine which direction we wanted to go with that. So that's how the rate table came to be. So there's a penalty of up to $50,000 a day from EPA if you don't comply with this. So obviously that wasn't ever discussed to just take the penalty. So somehow it was kind of to discuss it a little bit, but it didn't really stick very long. Most municipalities realized we need to meet the requirements. We're not gonna go that road. So non-residential. So the residential properties, single-family residential properties would get a flat fee, and then the non-residential and other property, other residential, so like multifamily, would be split into 18 tiers, and so those fees would be spread out. So it makes sense when you're looking at forming a stormwater utility to look at, because stormwater impact is directly related to the amount of impervious area that you have. So since commercial properties have more impervious area, then their fees are higher than a single-family house lot. So when we look at what other municipalities around Massachusetts have voted and approved stormwater utilities, I heard Westford is brand new as of last night, I think. Tewksbury is also brand new as of a couple weeks ago, maybe. Our fee structure was based on Newton's that they had developed like 10 or so years ago. That was working really well for them. We heard many presentations from Newton on their stormwater fee structure and all the benefits and how well it was working for them. So we're not going to talk about drinking, I'm not sure. but they did approve a utility at some point. And the other towns around us. So the next ones up that I've heard are looking at utilities. Next would be Winchester and Framingham. But in no words are we, we're not alone. The rest of the country, they all have stormwater utilities as well. So we're not alone.
That's just a partial list. So there's other So I'm obviously not going to dive into the specifics for every single town and how they're collecting utilities. But I'll quickly go over to show you guys. So there's a couple different ways towns have gone about determining the utility fee for each property. But they're all pretty much, they're very comparable. So for example, Westford and Tewksbury, they base their utility fees on an equivalent residential unit. And so it's still based on impervious area. So for example, Westford, they have an annual budget for stormwater of approximately $1.5 million. And they just find an equivalent residential unit area. I think there's like 3,500 square feet. And then they say that they're charging $75 per that. So even like large residential homes might get charged 1.5 units. And then, but then with the non-single family residential homes, so commercial, industrial, multifamily, it's not like you're going to be charged 3.5 or 3.25 units. You're just charged, you round up to the next unit. So for example, if you had a commercial property with 4,800 square feet, in Westford you get charged a little over $1,000 a year. In Chelmsford you just fall right into tier 5, as we defined in the tier table. You get charged $1,500 a year. You have a facility in Westford, or a property in Westford with 175,000 square feet of impervious area. You'd be getting charged $3,750 a year. In Chelmsford, you'd be sitting right in tier 8 at $3,000 a year. And so that's how Tewksbury and Westford both use the ERU, the equivalent residential unit, to base their fees. Shrewsbury has a similar tier rate structure table as ours, where if you fit between this and this amount of square feet of impervious area, and then tier 2. So on. And theirs is very similar to ours. It ranges from $90 to $7,500 a year, depending on the square footage. And then Newton, like Christina said, their initial stormwater utility that they developed like 10 years ago, ours is kind of the outline for ours. They recently changed theirs all around. And so now their budget is about $2 million annually. And they've really shifted a lot of that, much more onto the commercial, non-single family residential properties. So those bills they've gone up exponentially. So they just charge it straight, almost 5 cents a square foot of impervious area. So the same square foot example we had for Westford up there. So if you had a property with 48,000 square feet of impervious area, and you're getting charged $2,256 a year. In Chelmsford, you're sitting in tier 5 at $1,500. Then if you go up to 175,000 square feet, and you're getting charged over $8,000 a year. On Chelmsford, you're sitting in tier 8 at $3,000 a year. So this slide basically, it's just to show that there's a few different ways towns have gone about the specifics of how to get the fee, how to determine the billing, but they all kind of shake out around the same thing. Newton's used to shake out around the same thing, but now they put a lot more of the pressure onto the commercial facilities to put that bill.
So this is our first year with the stormwater utility, right? And where did we wind up? What have we done? We've been billing, and what have we done with the money? Well, the 2020 budget was $1.127 million. With that, a foreman was hired, 3 operators, 3 truck drivers, a stormwater engineer, GIS manager, and we have started to develop the stormwater master plan, which she spoke about. The stormwater master plan is essential to build the backbone of what the rest of the stormwater division will be doing. So it doesn't just comply with MS4.